you've given us so many great memories over the years. Who were your heroes? Who did you grow up listening to that inspired you to want to do this?
Oh, I have to say Judy Garland. Judy Garland. My father took me to her concert, and I was on his shoulders. And I saw her singing at the Boston Garden. I must have been 7 years old.
Wow.
And so she had on a top hat and a cane and fishnet stockings and a tail from a tuxedo coat with little shorts on, and blew my mind.
That was it.
And I said, I want to be Judy Garland. And then I used to wait. Well, she was all grown up, of course, but I used to wait till every Christmas Eve for The Wizard of Oz to come on television, because it only came on once a year, on Christmas Eve. Now, to think back of all that time and how now I can watch it 24/7 all day long if I want to. So I would choose now to watch Alice in Wonderland and probably Gone with the Wind. It sure dates. That dates me for sure.
Wow. And other musical artists and bands who really inspired you?
To tell you the truth, I grew up on soul music in
really?
Boston. Yep, on AM radio,
Not
WILD.
A lot
in
of
Boston.
Aretha and Otis Redding and
Mainly,
Motown.
yeah, all Motown. I
Stax.
mean, I really believed that was the only music alive. I only had an AM radio, so at the time, and it was all soul music.
So it spoke to
And
you.
the Chi-Lites
Sure.
and the Dramatics and bands of that nature. I just mimicked them and sang every bit of notes and whatever little innuendos they would kind of throw about. And I knew the Chi-Lites backward and forward, and just kind of was, in that vein of music. Not in any of this current music. I don't really know it so well.
Sure.
Unless it was in the 80s with me then I know of it. But I really only worked with Frank Zappa, in the 70s, and my brain was completely enthralled with what he was doing and saying to me, and I was not listening to other people's music. The only really one album I ever really listened to was Boz Scaggs. So go figure. And that's it.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Tell us how you ended up coming to LA and joining with the Zappa crew.
I actually was nominated to be Playboy Bunny of the Year for 1976 in Boston. And so they wanted me to go to Hugh Hefner's house in Los Angeles. And I drove across the country with 2 Playboy Bunnies in my 1969 5-speed Firebird with the convertible top down. Drove up to Hefner's house. It was 10 o'clock in the morning on February 10th, 1976. I was there to be the Valentine for his party at the front door. And my picture just got in a magazine. So I thought that maybe I could get to move into the house in the mansion. That was my big dream.
Sure.
And I went to see Hef, and he flagged me up the stairs and didn't speak to me. He didn't talk. He was at the top of the stairs, and I'm from Boston, and I'm very verbal. I'm huggy and pushy and touchy-feely. And I asked him to please come downstairs to meet with me, and he didn't speak to me. He just waved his hand, and I was not used to that treatment. So I said, "Excuse me, Mr. Hefner, but I have plans, and I've got to go. Thank you very much for your time. Bye-bye." I turned around, and I walked out and got in my Firebird and drove down to the SIR Studio Instrumental Lots in Hollywood.
Sure.
And I was looking for a friend of mine as a guitar player, and then I was walking and I heard Frank Zappa's music. And so I looked over at this door, and there was a sign, and the sign said, "If you value your life, do not open this door." And at that point in time, my gas tank was on E, and I was starving. I had nowhere to go because I walked out from the Hefner's mansion, and I was stranded. So I pushed the door open, and there was standing in front of my eyes was Frank Zappa. And he said to me, "What are you doing here?" He remembered that we had met in '72 in Boston. And I said, "I came here to be a movie star and to move into Hefner's house, and I walked out on him today, and now I have no money, and I'm hungry, Frank, and I don't know what to do."
You laid it all out.
And he said, "Well, I got a job for you. You're going to be Mary from Joe's Garage." I said, no, Frank, I don't know how to sing. I don't know how to sing. I'm going to be a movie star. And he said, when you're done singing, then you can go be a movie star. I said, okay, I'll do that.
Wow.
And he hired me that day, February 10th, 1976.
So this is where you met Terry, you met Warren.
He turned around and he introduced me to Terry Bozzio right then and there at that point in time. And that evening, I went home with Terry Bozzio and never left him for 9.5 years.
Wow.
And I was very dedicated to Terry Bozzio and our music.
Mm-hmm.
Our music really came first, and that's why our relationship was ruined, because we should have put our relationship first.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, that's how things go.
Yeah. Well, I was in LA when you guys put together the first EP, and I was blown away. I knew something special was happening. Tell us how Ken Scott got involved.
Frank told me to go drive over to Ken Scott's house. He gave me his address. He said, climb over his fence, go get him. Tell him you want him to produce this record. I'll give you the studio for the weekend. He was going to New York to do a Halloween show, Frank Zappa. And I drove over his house. I climbed over his fence. I went to him at the backyard. Said, look, I've got this tape with Terry Bozzio and me, and I want you to produce it at Frank's house. He's got a Kurtz Wild and a brand new studio. Will you come over and do it tomorrow? He said, yeah, I will.
So Frank knew you had to like just go get him. He didn't answer the door. Or
Frank sent me on missions, and that's how it went. And I did everything that Frank Zappa told me.
Yeah.
Because I believed in him wholeheartedly, and I still do.
Well, tell us about some of those legendary songs, any stories or how they came together, like Words.
Words, well, Terry Bozzio wrote that, and Terry Bozzio wrote Walking in L.A. He's an incredible songwriter and a melodic person. That's
You wrote
why
the lyrics too?
Yeah, the music and the lyrics.
Wow.
Terry's an incredible writer. That's why he tunes all those drums to a different note, because that's how he hears life, I would think. I don't know, we haven't spoken in a long time, but I'm a big fan of his and always have been. Since the day I saw him play, I knew that he was just an ever-ready battery.
Yeah. Well, you were embraced immediately by K-Rock, and you know you're part of that legendary Capitol Records
We made a
tower.
condition they couldn't ignore. They did not embrace us. They refused us with 350 letters and said that was not the condition or the direction of music for the 80s. And believe you me, I made them believe that it was true, that we were the next biggest thing. And I believe that that was the case. I broke a lot of ice for a lot of people. I still do it in very odd, different shapes and ways and forms, because the world needs a lot of help here. And unless somebody puts out a hand, no one will take your hand. So the hand has to be there for someone really to have something. People don't go around asking you for things, even if they're starving or dying in the street. It's for us to take the term to give. And I've written a song about that, and my whole life has been of that nature. I've given my whole life to my 2 sons. I'm a very grateful mother. They have no father, and that doesn't matter to me. My goal in life is to be responsible for whatever I put here, and to take care of it, and nurture it, to save it for when I'm gone.
Sure. Well, music is such a healing thing. It opens up opportunities for people all over the world. What advice would you give to the new generation, the new singers and bands today? What do they have to concentrate on to find their own voice and their own legacy?
You know, you don't find anything. It is what it is. Just for you and just for me. If we don't know what makes us tick, we'll never know. And that's something that's within the person. You can't make... I love all these TV shows. They're all fabulous and wonderful, and they give people hope. But unless you are what you are, you're not. I can't give you anything to say, but to be who you are, whether it's a shoe salesman or a painter on walls outside of graffiti. If you do that 100%, then that's what you should do. I don't think there are any rules here in the world, and there shouldn't be any rules, because I break them all. And I find that is my goal. I'm one person that if you put a no in front of me, I'm going to turn you upside down into a yes. So I think maybe that is a funny little innate thing that people have. They want to change or break the barrier. And if you tell them no all the time, how will I make a mistake to know if I'm good or bad? Or if anything can even be possible? I mean, I don't need to tell you what happened with electricity. That was a big mistake. And most discoveries are a mistake. And that's why they put erasers on pencils, because people make mistakes. And if you can't make something of that and be great from your mistake, then you're wasting your time.